Well, if you're thinking of applying for a loan, get in quick. Banks are expected to get tougher soon when assessing who they lend to. So the advice many finance experts are giving to potential borrowers is apply soon.
Yeah, regardless of the type of loan, the rules and regulations are quietly changing, which will mean some people will miss out. So what should you have in place when you apply for any type of loan? We send a camera out to the streets to get advice from our viewers.
Try to present all the information up front in one go so the bank doesn't chase you up, and that'll help speed up the process.
Go through a broker, not a bank.
Probably saving up for a 20% deposit, and yeah, having a good credit history also helps.
OK, money expert Anthony Bell joins us now with advice on how to maximise our chances of snagging that loan in a market that's just about to get tougher. Morning, Anthony.
Morning, Carlos.
Is this true? Is it about to get tougher to get a loan?
Yeah, look, it always happens when there's a bit of activity around mortgagees in possession, and there's also too some forced closures on properties and mortgages. So the banks start to think that they're not in the business of having to wind people up or sell their properties, so they start to make the opportunity to get loans a little bit harder.
And what's going to change in what the lenders are looking for in an applicant? Is it going to be buried on page 192 of those huge documents you get?
It's going to be upfront about it, Laz. What they want to see is high degrees of serviceability. So in the old days, you know, and when I say the old days, it was only 2 or 3 years ago, you used to be able to apply for a loan. If you had a decent amount of equity in the place, the bank would say, OK, it's worth that to actually give them a loan and see how they fare. Now the bank's really looking for the ability of the borrower to make repayments, and also to go a step further and actually start paying off the loan as it goes as well.
OK, well, let's say that we do really need this loan. How do we maximise our chances of getting one in a tougher market?
Yeah, great, Cole. So the most important thing that the banks are going to be looking for is to demonstrate a savings history. So a track record of being able to show the bank and say, over the last 3 years, this is our income, this is what we've spent, and this is how much is left over. So they see that you're actually a good financial controller yourself. You've got to keep all of your loans in order. So don't let your credit cards get out, because that goes to your credit card ratings, and that will be a no-no as far as a bank look at for a loan. Have as large a deposit as possible, and the key risk there is obviously making sure that, you know, you've got as much to go into a loan, so you get past that 80% to 20% lending valuation rate.
Now, the experts are advising prospective borrowers to get in quick before these tougher measures come in. But if these are people who would qualify now but wouldn't qualify then, there's got to be dangers in that.
That's right, Les. I mean, banks have to keep lending. That's where they make most of their money. So to just say the banks are not going to loan average Australians anymore is not going to be an accurate statement, but they're just going to be much more stringent about them. The new rules are still being debated, but watch out for other banks who say, you know what, we will actually run the risk of giving loans out, and we're happy to gain banking share by being a little bit more risk-worthy than we are about the guys that are pulling back. So there'll be opportunities in every sort of disaster for lending as well.
OK, any advice specifically for first-time buyers? Or?
It's always a tough one, Coles, because, you know, you turn up to a bank and they say, oh, you haven't had a loan before. You go, well, how do I get one unless you actually start off with me? So I always say go to places where there's a relationship, like where mum and dad have banked for years and somebody knows you and they know your family history. Also, too, that a mortgage broker was mentioned actually by one of the viewers in the street. Really important, because they can go to about 25 different banks to find out what deals are available.
So they're worthwhile,
It is, Coles, because you actually don't pay for a mortgage broker. The bank actually pays the fee, so it's actually a free charge. And also to get really good advice before the transaction to somebody to help you put your application together properly, to explain it, you know, to the guys on the other side of the bank table, you know, that you actually can afford to make it and make the repayments rather, and get the loan done.
We've said on the show before that it's best to shop around for something like this. It's such a huge commitment, but as the market gets tougher and tougher, what happens if your application is unsuccessful? If you're sitting in front of the CommBank and you've just been rejected by NAB, do they know that stuff? Yeah,
look, the thing is that there will be a certain trail where there's been many applications put in when they do credit reference checks. So the bank will do a credit reference check, and then when the next person goes on, they'll say, oh, someone else has already looked at that.
Look, that comes up, does it?
It does come up, guys. If you keep on, because someone keeps doing reference checks on you, and so it'll have a trail of all the people. That's why I say, you know, use an expert or a mortgage broker. It costs you nothing, and it is definitely preferred by, you know, the general community now, because you go out to every bank and get a deal that actually suits you.
Your success rate's going to be better.
Yeah, and you don't pay for it. You know, the bank actually pays for the mortgage broker, which is
Make sure they're a good mortgage broker, right? One who's not getting some sort of sidekick off.
Well, that's right. I mean, they're going to get paid somewhere, but they should be declaring their fees, of course, in all the documentation, Coles.
Okay.
Thanks, mate.
No worries,
Good to see you.